In 1986, Buick put a glowing green touchscreen in the middle of the Riviera's dashboard. It controlled the radio, the climate system, the trip computer, and even pages of vehicle diagnostics. This was not a concept car hiding under auto show lights. It was a production Buick you could drive home from a dealer. The strange part is that Buick got so much of the modern dashboard right, then watched the idea disappear. The real question is not how Detroit built a touchscreen car before most Americans owned a computer. It is why the future felt so wrong when it finally arrived. Nobody was paying attention to Buick as a computer company. The Riviera name meant personal luxury, long hoods, elegant rooflines, and the kind of quiet confidence that did not need a racing stripe. Since 1963, the Riviera had stood on its own as Buick's stylish answer to the premium two-door coupe. By the middle of the 1980s, however, that formula was under pressure. Fuel economy mattered. Front-wheel drive was spreading through General Motors. Large coupes were becoming harder to justify. So the 1986 Riviera arrived as a dramatic reset. A contemporary road test described it as 19 inches shorter and more than 500 pounds lighter than the previous model. Its familiar V8 was gone, replaced by a fuel-injected 3.8-liter V6 driving the front wheels. To traditional Riviera buyers, that was already a lot of change. Then they opened the door and found a little television waiting for their finger. Buick called it the Graphic Control Center, or GCC. The name sounds modest. The hardware was anything but. Behind the dark glass sat a cathode ray tube, the same broad family of display technology used in televisions and computer monitors of the era. An SAE paper written by General Motors engineers described an interactive, reconfigurable system built around that tube and a transparent membrane switch. This was not a modern capacitive panel that sensed the electrical properties of a fingertip. The clear touch layer registered where the driver pressed, and the computer matched that position to a control drawn on the screen. That distinction matters. Buick was not simply replacing a radio dial with a fixed electronic button. It was creating controls that could change with the page. Touch the climate screen and the glass became a temperature panel. Move to audio and the same physical area could become a tuning control or part of a graphic equalizer. Select the trip page and the screen rearranged itself again. One piece of hardware could pretend to be dozens of different panels. That is the basic trick at the heart of nearly every modern infotainment system. The pixels change, so the controls change. Buick had the architecture in a showroom car in 1986. The feature list still sounds surprisingly current. The Graphic Control Center operated the radio and climate control. It displayed trip information and a tachometer. It monitored parts of the brakes, electrical system, and powertrain. It could show maintenance reminders and a calendar. A hidden service mode gave technicians access to diagnostic information without requiring the driver to understand what was happening behind the screen. Put yourself in the driver's seat. Green letters appear against a black background. Small virtual sliders and buttons glow in the center stack. Touch one and a new page replaces the old one. There is no smartphone in your pocket, no consumer GPS on the windshield, and no flat panel display in the house. Yet the Buick is asking you to navigate software before you can change the temperature. That was only round one. The engineers were also trying to solve a problem that has become much larger today. Cars were gaining more electronic systems, but dashboards had limited space. Add a separate switch for every function, and the cabin turns into an aircraft panel. Group those functions on a reconfigurable display, and the dashboard becomes cleaner, at least in theory. The SAE engineering paper makes clear that the team understood the challenge. Their work was not a novelty project thrown together for publicity. It dealt directly with how to display information, how the driver would interact with it, and how to overcome the limits of available technology. The system had to survive vibration, temperature changes, sunlight, and years of use inside a moving car. A home computer could sit quietly on a desk. The Riviera's computer had to live above a transmission tunnel and work after a freezing night in Michigan or a summer afternoon in Arizona. And no, the screen was not just an expensive option ordered by a handful of gadget collectors. Buick Information and the Riviera Owners Association list the Graphic Control Center as standard equipment on the 1986 Riviera. Every ordinary buyer had to meet Buick's vision of the future, whether that buyer wanted a computer or simply wanted a comfortable coupe. For a moment, the vision looked brilliant. The screen reduced the forest of separate controls. The green graphics gave the cabin a technical character no wood grain panel could match. Diagnostics could tell an owner more about the car than a row of warning lights. When a function changed, engineers could present a different screen instead of carving out another space in the dashboard. Pay attention to the trade-off, because it explains everything. The physical knob stays in one place. After a few drives, your hand can find it with very little help from your eyes. A virtual control has no permanent shape. Its location and meaning can change from page to page. Before adjusting the radio, the driver first has to confirm which page is open, locate the right target, and press the glass accurately. That extra mental step sounds tiny in a parked car. At 60 miles per hour, it is the entire argument. General Motors now acknowledges that the small virtual controls confused some drivers and were difficult to navigate while moving. A 1986 road test praised the Riviera as a smooth, handsome road car, but raised a second concern. Could dealers maintain a dashboard this sophisticated over the long term? Some service departments were not yet prepared for a system that mixed automotive repair with computer diagnosis. If that sounds familiar, keep watching. Buick had reached the same conflict modern car makers are still wrestling with. A screen can contain almost unlimited features, but a driver's attention is sharply limited. The technology offers more freedom to designers while demanding more decisions from the person behind the wheel. The Graphic Control Center also arrived inside a car that was fighting its own identity crisis. The new Riviera was lighter and more efficient, but it no longer looked or felt like the large rear-drive coupes that had built the name. It lost the V8, adopted front-wheel drive, and shrank at a moment when Buick was also asking loyal customers to accept a digital cabin. Blaming the screen alone for the model's weak reception would be lazy. Buick changed the size, the proportions, the powertrain, and the interface at the same time. That makes the Riviera more interesting, not less. It was not one risky idea, it was an entire definition of luxury changing in a single model year. Traditional luxury reduced effort with soft seats, quiet engines, and large controls. Buick's new luxury promised information. It told you what the car was doing, remembered what needed attention, and gathered multiple systems behind one piece of glass. If you enjoy classic cars because they show where modern ideas really began, subscribe to Classic Cars USA. These are the details that turn an old dashboard into a map of the future. Alright, so here is where things get complicated. The Graphic Control Center did not vanish immediately. General Motors carried the concept into the Buick Riviera, where it was called the Electronic Control Center. Oldsmobile developed a color screen version for the Toronado Trofeo called the Visual Information Center. For a few years, GM kept refining the idea across its personal luxury cars. The touchscreen still failed to become the new norm. Customers had not suddenly learned to love layers of virtual controls, and the hardware remained more expensive and specialized than a set of knobs. General Motors says its early touchscreen experiment ended within a few years. The industry moved toward conventional buttons again, even as electronic displays continued to spread through instrument clusters and trip computers. Buick celebrated a cleaner dashboard. It should not have expected the driver's habits to change just as quickly. This is where the Riviera's failure becomes a useful engineering lesson. Being first is not the same as being ready. The Graphic Control Center solved the problem of limited dashboard space, but it created a problem of discoverability. It gathered information efficiently, but made common actions less tactile. It offered diagnostics that were genuinely useful, but bundled them with basic controls that drivers wanted to operate by feel. The screen was not a bad idea. It was several good ideas tied together before designers knew which ones belonged on glass. Modern vehicles have far better displays, faster processors, brighter colors, and software that can be updated. Yet the core tension has not gone away. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration now maintains detailed guidance for visual and manual interaction with built-in electronic devices. Its research treats in-vehicle displays as a possible source of distraction, because operating them can pull a driver's eyes and attention away from the road. That does not mean every screen is dangerous. It means interface design matters as much as the feature list. Large targets are better than tiny ones. Quick actions are better than buried menus. Controls used constantly may deserve a physical switch. Information should arrive when it helps, not simply because a computer can display it. Those principles sound modern, but the Riviera demonstrated their importance nearly 4 decades ago. Buick's screen could change its layout, expose diagnostic data, and combine several systems in one place. It also taught drivers why a temperature knob can be beautiful precisely because it does only one thing. There's another reason the Graphic Control Center deserves more respect. It showed that a car could explain itself. The diagnostic pages were an early glimpse of a vehicle becoming legible through software. Instead of interpreting a vague warning lamp, a technician could enter a service mode and inspect system information. Today's cars constantly monitor sensors, log faults, calculate service intervals, and report problems through digital displays. Buick's green screen was a primitive ancestor of that relationship. The technology did not travel in a straight line from the Riviera to the giant displays sold today. Cathode ray tubes gave way to flat panels. Transparent switch membranes gave way to newer touch technologies. Standalone vehicle computers became networks of control modules. The Riviera's particular hardware became obsolete, but its central idea survived. A dashboard could be software, not just an arrangement of parts. That is why the 1986 Riviera looks different now than it did when new. At the time, some buyers saw a smaller Buick with unfamiliar controls. Today, the cabin looks like a warning sent forward in time. It predicted the convenience of a reconfigurable dashboard, the value of built-in diagnostics, and the frustration of hunting through a screen for a simple function. Buick did not fail because it imagined the wrong future. It failed because it delivered that future all at once to customers who had asked for a Riviera. The green glow eventually went dark. The Rietta and Trofeo carried pieces of the experiment a little farther. Then General Motors stepped back. Physical buttons returned to prominence, and automotive touchscreens waited for thinner displays, cheaper computing, and a generation already trained to navigate software with a fingertip. Now almost every new car carries some version of Buick's gamble. The radio, climate, navigation, trip data, maintenance reminders, and diagnostics meet on a central screen. The graphics are prettier and the responses are faster. The debate is exactly the same. The next time a modern dashboard makes you swipe twice to adjust something a knob handled instantly, remember the black and green screen in the 1986 Riviera. Buick had already discovered both sides of the touchscreen revolution. It found the future and it found the flaw.